Hello, welcome to another episode of It's Not All Rainbows. I'm your host, Lindsay Goodman. I'm a certified trauma recovery coach, and I'm also a survivor of abuse in a queer relationship. I'm here to help you figure out what's really going on in your relationship, to help get you out and on the road to recovery. Today, I'm going to talk to you about some triangulation that can happen, and this one is going to be tangled in with post separation abuse. I'm going to tell a little story. I don't know if I've talked about this publicly too much before. I think probably on Instagram and whatnot, but I don't think I've specifically talked about this too much in the podcast. But I'm going to tell a little story of something I experienced with that 2 years ago now, and hope that that helps you to gain some understanding or validation in your own situations. Before we dive in, I will go ahead and do my struggles and successes for this week. A struggle is this is a silly one. I'm just looking at my windshield right now and it's cracked and it's double cracked, so it's like this. It kind of looks like the hand of God. I think that's the name of the painting where it like comes in and there's like the two fingers touching and but they're not quite touching. And I really, really need to get it taken care of. In fact, I think I'm not supposed to be driving around like, I'm telling on myself here. And it's a struggle because this is a time where, like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I don't have any money, but it's a time where finances are a little bit kind of out of whack, for multiple reasons. So I won't go too much into that, but like, I'm just looking at it like, I need to take care of this. Um, which I'm sure a lot of you can relate to because that's just life, right? Like, we think we have it all worked out. We're like, okay, I've got this income, I got that, I've got this bill, I got that. And then something comes up and it is what it is. A success this week is I can't think of anything. Um, I've been getting rid of stuff, and it's really frustrating when you're like getting rid of stuff, or you're going through stuff to change the season because fall is upon us. Actually, right now I'm cooking. It is very hot right now. I'm filming this on September 15th. I'm in my car. It's warmer than it's usually in September, and we've had some really cool days. And yeah, but I'm still just like going through everything. So right now the house is just like a cluttered horrible mess, but it's one of those things where like the mess has a purpose and like, okay, this goes there, this goes that. I just need some more dedicated time to do that. And each and every week I've been dropping off bags and bags at like donation or consignment and stuff. And it feels really good because I really want to be more intentional about what I bring into my home. And this is something that I've struggled with for a long time. It's partly to do with my trauma. It's partly just like society and like consumerism and all that stuff. But I really want to have like a simple life where I'm not spending so much time cleaning and tending to all my stuff and whatnot. So it's a work in progress. I'll try to keep you updated on that as I continue that process. But it's a success. I'm sticking with it. I'm dropping the stuff off. I'm getting it out of my home. I'm bringing in less stuff. I'm being more intentional about what I'm keeping. Um, so yeah, that's a success for me. I hope that your struggles aren't too struggling and that your successes are awesome. So whatever your success is this week, give yourself a high five from me. Um, okay, so I just came up at the end of August, the 2 year anniversary of the day that we quote unquote broke up. Now I've talked about this before. I have an episode for sure. I think I'm around episode 90 right now, so I'm getting really close to episode 100. Can't believe I've made that many episodes. Um, but I know that a while ago, I guess my point was that I don't remember like every single episode that I've created at this point, but there's one called No Man's Land. And the episode before or after, there's a couple episodes in a row where I'm kind of talking about the time that we broke up, and I'm talking about the no man's land of like still living with someone who you're not with, who is abusive, and kind of like trying to maneuver that like really sticky, confusing gray area in your life. So definitely go back and listen to that if you're curious. Um, but the day that we broke up was at the end of August in 2021. And I guess the success is that I didn't even think about it this year. Usually, and if you're still thinking about your like abuse or trauma anniversaries 10, 20 years down the line, that's fine. That's normal. That's to be expected. But it feels really good to be moving farther away from that and not even thinking of like when these anniversaries roll around because there's a lot. A lot of us have a lot, right? Over the course of several years, you've got this one, you've got that one. There's like abuse, getting free, the day this happened, the day that happened. So we have a lot of like trauma anniversaries or abuse anniversaries. And it's not that any of us are like, I'm going to commemorate this, I'm going to put it on my calendar. It's just something that's in our heads, right? We're not purposefully being like, okay, on this day, I'm going to think about, but it's like there. You see it coming. And this year I didn't even realize it. I was home. I was with my family. In Indiana visiting my mom, my siblings, my nieces and nephews and things like that. But anyway, so that day has come and gone, and I was thinking, you know what? Again, I don't know how much I've shared about this, but I should really talk about what happened the day we broke up. And I know that I've talked about it, but the triangulation. And like I said, this ties into post-separation abuse. This is a very covert abuse tactic that happened, that I was luckily able to spot and call out. But it was when, just in case you haven't heard that episode or heard me talk about it before, we broke up. We went out for like drinks or something downtown. I brought up some issues in the relationship again, and they were like, let's break up then. And I was like, okay. Um, Again, that's a story for another time. And they, of course, weren't taking it seriously. They followed me around for the next couple of days. Why are you doing this? I don't understand. I didn't mean it. I was just saying that. I don't like, why are you treating me this way? You're isolating me from the family, blah, blah, blah. Whereas I was like, I had to actually make genuine changes this time because they said it. They want to break up. I've been trying to get out for a year almost. I've got to actually make changes this time. This is my chance, right? Because it's very, very hard to get out of these relationships. So we came back home. My son's dad was there hanging out with my son. And what ended up happening was that I didn't want to go outside. They were outside. They lit a fire. This was very normal at the time for all of us to be together and like do fires or dinners or, go camping and things like that. Um, and what ended up happening was that they were outside and they were asking my son's dad, who's also my ex-husband, about his childhood trauma, about his mom who passed away, about this, about that, really trying to bond with him. And now this is someone who, up until this point in time has been hot and cold with him. I mean, they're hot and cold with everyone. One day they might be a little more friendly. Maybe they've cracked open beers and they're in a quote unquote good mood, which again, like their good moods and bad moods, they're kind of all planned out. Like, it's all a purpose. It's either, oh, I need to try to get close to this person so that Lindsay feels isolated today and shows how buddy buddy we are. Like, look at us, we're bros. We were both in the military, whatever. And then another day, they're going to be off. They're going to be cold. They're going to be in the background, kind of trying to like make everyone uncomfortable, make the victim walk on eggshells. Like, what did I do? Oh no, they're going to be mad at me later. Oh no, am I interacting too much with my son's dad? Oh no, what have I done? Is he going to say something that's going to piss them off? And then I'm going to be in trouble. So, anyway, this hot and cold person all of a sudden is sitting out there like getting deep, like leaning in, like what did it feel like when that happened, and blah blah blah, starting to say things like um kind of comparing my son's dad and I's relationship with ours. And what they were doing was making me out to be the bad guy, right? Like, let's bond over this. Like, Lindsay wants too much. Lindsay gets upset. Lindsay's this, Lindsay's that. And it was very subtle how they were doing it. Like, it wasn't something that my son's dad would be like, whoa, you're just like talking shit at this point. I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. Cause like, whether or not I feel the same about how me and Lindsay's relationship were, like, that's like, I can't picture him just being like, yeah, let's just sit here and talk about Lindsay even though she's in the house. Like, he's much more like, whatever my feelings are, I don't want to, like, why are you talking to me about your partner? Like, weird. But it was very much just like, yeah. And they were saying things like, yeah, I don't think I've found the one yet, which, by the way, is like really shitty. Like, you're telling this to the person who, anyway. Um, and it was just like going on and on. And I was like, all of a sudden, I was like, oh my gosh, they're out here trying to bond with him to triangulate, trying to like, oh, it's the two of us against Lindsay. Lindsay's the problem. She's always leaving relationships. She's never going to be happy. She's this, she's that. And I did come out and I called them out. I came out and like opened the door and I was like, this is the most effed up thing I've ever seen or heard or whatever. And of course, my son's dad was like, I don't understand what's happening here. Like, I was just having a conversation. Like, sure, I'm not super close to this person, but like, there's no harm in this conversation. Um, and eventually, like, he came in and was like, what's going on? Like, we broke up. I don't understand why all of a sudden they're trying to like talk to you about like deep things like your mom and trauma and like our relationship and our relationship and our relationship, like whatever. And of course, he was really uncomfortable with that situation and was like apologetic and was like, okay. Of course, my abuser never apologized ever. Didn't acknowledge it. Didn't acknowledge that they had said anything. Didn't say anything that whole rest of the night. I think they slept on the couch and was just like the next day, like, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't mean anything by it, blah, blah, blah. But, never was like, sorry, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. It's inappropriate. We broke up. He didn't know it. I was like luring him into a conversation. But this is a really like solid example of covert abuse. other people around don't recognize it for what it is, that's triangulation. Like, had he known that we had just broken up, he might have been like, why are you talking to me about this right now? Like, that's weird. uh Perfect example of post separation abuse, because that is abuse, right? The triangulation, the pinning people against each other, the sneaking around, doing all that stuff is covert abuse. And a lot of people don't understand that with covert abuse, quite often it's hard to spot. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. You think it's normal. Like, it's normal human behavior. Like, hey, we all love this kid, or we're all around this kid. We all know each other. It makes sense. We're going to have conversations here and there. It's things that to the untrained eye, like if I just call someone, I'm like, oh my gosh, they sat outside and talked to my son's dad. You're like, yeah, they're trying to make an effort to be friends. But it's all the little things that add up all together. I talk about the puzzle piece a lot. It's all of the things coming together to make this bigger picture that's like, oh, this is abuse, right? So post separation abuse, triangulation, just most of the time when I create content, sometimes I have one that's like, this is what physical abuse is. And it's like, let's talk about some of the more obvious, but like maybe lesser known things. I really, really like to talk about covert abuse because, like I said, if you didn't know, if you hadn't gone through it yourself, I would sound crazy. You would feel like I was making it up, or I was being too sensitive, or I was just like jealous that they were having a conversation. But everything that they do is calculated. They Like I said, maybe he had been there 4 days ago and they were cold with him and they didn't want to have any conversation with him or whatever. But at that point, I guarantee you, and this is probably the same across the board, you broke up at a restaurant, there's someone at the house, doesn't matter who it is. It could be a sibling, it could be one of your parents, yours or theirs. It could be a neighbor, it could be a friend, just a babysitter. It can be anybody. And they're already going, all right, I've got to get home. I've got to get ahead of the game. I've got to plant some seeds that she's crazy, that we got in a fight, that it's her fault. It's all in her head. It's just another fight. It's not actually a breakup. I've got to make sure she doesn't come home and say, hey, we just broke up. Can you take the kid for tonight? Or can you help me get my things out? Or whatever, right? I've got to get there. I've got to do whatever covert weird abuse tactic I can do to like make sure that I look like the victim here, that I look like the good guy here. I'm going to get this guy relating to me about his ex-wife, who, like, again, we didn't have a horrible relationship. It wasn't abusive, but we also just like couldn't get it together. We couldn't get along. We couldn't communicate well enough. We couldn't understand each other. Neither of us wanted to like put in the work, blah, blah, blah. Right. So it's all calculated. And again, I want to drive that home for anyone who might not understand something like this. If you have a friend or a family member or maybe a current partner who has been in an abusive relationship where there's covert abuse happening, you don't really understand it. I really want this to sink in for you. If they're telling you these things happen, I experienced these things, you have to take it seriously because, like I said, it's a giant puzzle piece with lots of little pieces. And when you put them all together, which can be very difficult to do, it's adding up to abuse. It's just another thing that this person has gone through, has been confused about, has been gaslighted about, all of that stuff. And if you're going through it now or you've gone through it, you are the person who has experienced something like this. I really want this to be a validation for you, or just another aha moment of like, oh my gosh, like I'm remembering how many times that all of a sudden they would be buddy buddy with someone who they were talking crap about 364 other days of the year, right? You have those aha moments where you're like, oh my gosh, that one day this happened, and you realize again that it was part of the abuse. I know I've said this several times. Covert abuse is called covert abuse for a reason. They're doing all this stuff dressed like, I'm picturing like the camo suits when people go out in the woods and there's like literally like little fake leaves like hanging off of them so that the animals can't see them. That's covert abuse. You can't see it. You don't know that it's happening. It happens and you just keep going on and you're confused. They're like, did I see something? I don't think I did. I don't know. That was okay. Weird. I'm having a weird feeling about it, but it doesn't make any sense, so I'm just going to keep going. So, like I said, I hope that it's validating for you if you like fully already understand that that's something you've experienced, or if you're still trying to put that puzzle together to understand what you went through or someone else you went through, that you're like, yeah, yeah, no, I did go through that. I wish that none of you went through that. I hope you're listening to this and you're like, Nope, can't relate. Great. Thanks for listening anyway. Okay, that's all I have for today. Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, please rate, review, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, whatever, comment, interact, please. I really want to get this to the people who need it the most, and your interactions really do make that happen. Probably should have said this before I asked you to go and do that. Remember that I am a certified trauma recovery coach. I do offer several options for one-on-one coaching. I also have group coaching going on now. We had a really awesome session in September. So we will be moving forward with that. Space is limited because it's just me, and I want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to talk and be heard and support others. I feel like it's going really well so far. So please, if that's something you're interested in, check that out. You can find all of that information at calendly.com/Lindsay Goodman. I would love to work with you if you're sitting here like, yeah, I'm still confused, or I'm still struggling, or I'm still here, or I'm not no contact yet, and I really want to be, and you just need that extra little bit of help. That is what I'm here for. So take care. I know this is a yucky thing, and I might have triggered some yucky memory for you. And if that happens, it's good because now we can start to process it and sort of like release it from being trapped in our bodies, but it's also kind of yucky. So please go do something nice for yourself. Drink some water, lots of it, and I will be back next week with more.